I'll offer you $30 million if you can figure this out. As soon as the audience heard the words $30 million, there was a flurry of yells and screaming. Mr. Thomas grinned, but he couldn't possibly be sincere out spending $30 million to translate a few Chinese words. I was about to answer no, however, when I spoke to Emily, who was seated in the room's corner. She reassured me, and I thought I heard her say, "Jonathan, you got this." I inhaled deeply before turning to my laptop, focusing harder and doing my best to translate the Chinese language. Jonathan is my name. I work for my league, a trade firm, and I am 33 years old. Mr. Thomas established this company 30 years ago to assist small and mid-sized enterprises in foreign commerce, and it now has many offices around the country. It has aided businesses in growing internationally, gaining customers, and streamlining logistics throughout the years. Our assistance has helped several companies develop significantly, and the firm is still doing very well. To put it mildly, it's a stable employment. Due to personal circumstances, I began working right out of high school, but they must be doing well financially if they hired someone like me. Mr. Thomas, with his big-hearted and caring nature, has fostered a company culture with minimal hierarchy and a friendly atmosphere. It's a well-regarded workplace with a strong reputation, attracting many highly educated employees with impressive academic backgrounds. While junior colleagues who joined after me climbed the ranks rapidly, I never felt envious or pressured. A promotion meant more responsibilities, longer hours, and more demanding tasks. That kind of life just didn't suit me. Rather than working tirelessly all week to enjoy an expensive dinner and fine wine on the weekend, I preferred going home on time every day, reading a book, and sipping tea. I was fully aware that I would likely never move up in the company. I was the type of person who easily blended into the background, plain looks, no standout features. At monthly meetings, I rarely spoke up, and at office parties, my bosses would often say things like, "Oh, you're still working here." It was hard to tell if they were joking or serious, but I would just chuckle and brush it off. That was my life, keeping my head down and doing my job without drawing attention to myself. I had no ambition for promotions or recognition. I just wanted to live peacefully until retirement. But the one person who constantly disrupted my quiet life was my former colleague, now my boss, Michael. Michael was the complete opposite of me, driven, ambitious, and always hungry for success. He prided himself on being an elite graduate from a prestigious university and never missed an opportunity to flaunt it. "What is this calculation mistake? Which university did you graduate from?" "Ha, never heard of it. An F-rank school. That's not even a real university." He would humiliate subordinates whenever they made mistakes, turning them into the laughing stock of the office. Yet, if one of his subordinates was about to close a big deal, Michael would suddenly swoop in, saying, "For someone like you, this isn't bad. Leave the rest to me, and you just handle the paperwork," and would steal their achievements, taking all the credit for himself. Even if someone tried to protest, Michael had surrounded himself with other top-tier graduates who dominated the sales department, making it impossible to challenge him. Anyone who dared to stand up to him would be relentlessly pressured until they quit. Despite his tactics, upper management never reprimanded him because his performance was outstanding. On top of that, he was surprisingly supportive of employees with elite academic backgrounds, acting like a friendly and dependable mentor to them. He was sly and never gave anyone an opening to expose him. Of course, education is an important indicator of a person's dedication and perseverance, but Michael's way of judging people solely by their academic background never sat right with me. Naturally, he despised me for being a high school graduate, though he didn't outright harass me since we had joined the company at the same time. Still, Michael would always find an opportunity to sneer at me, saying, "Watching someone as indecisive as Jonathan pisses me off. High school grads are just on a completely different level. I can't even comprehend them." And because of that, His followers also started looking down on me with disdain. Then, one day, a group of new employees arrived at my They ranged from fresh-faced 20-somethings to experienced 40-year-olds. But among them, one person particularly caught everyone's attention, a woman named Emily. "Hey, did you see the new hire? She's absolutely gorgeous." "Oh yeah, that's so." I wasn't too interested, but my colleagues smirked as they watched her introduce herself. "Nice to meet you all. I'm Emily." As she smiled and introduced herself, a round of enthusiastic applause filled the room. Emily, our newest colleague, had snow-like smooth skin, large dark eyes, and slightly upturned lips painted in a subtle shade of pink. She was so stunning that even I couldn't help but stare. I couldn't help but wonder why someone so beautiful had joined a mid-sized trading company like ours. But according to what I heard, she had previously worked for a competitor, and our upper management had taken notice of her exceptional skills and headhunted her. She was 29, 4 years younger than me. To be scouted at such a young age meant she was exceptionally talented. She was a completely different kind of person from me. Thinking that, I quickly returned to my desk to finish my work. This morning, the moment I arrived at the office, Michael had dumped a mountain of paperwork on me, and I needed to get through it. But the moment Michael and his group heard about Emily's background, they immediately tried to get close to her. "So, Emily, I hear you went to a pretty good university. That's promising in terms of rankings. Maybe it's considered high, but I'm still new to this company, so I'll work hard with a fresh mindset." As Emily answered sincerely, Michael burst into loud, crude laughter. "No, no. Someone as brilliant as you is more than welcome here. This company has people who just sit at their desks and still collect a paycheck after all." As he said that, he probably glanced in my direction. Hearing his voice grow slightly louder, I simply focused on my work in front of me. "You should stay away from bad examples like that. I'll teach you everything you need to know, so just rely on me," he continued. "Oh, okay," Emily said. Since Michael was a senior figure at her new company, Emily probably couldn't push back too strongly, seeing her lower her eyebrows in slight discomfort while brushing off the situation with a vague response. I couldn't help but think how troublesome this was. I was completely absorbed in my work when suddenly an unfamiliar female voice called out to me. "Excuse me." "Yes, can I help you?" Looking up from my screen, I saw Emily standing in front of me. "May I ask your name?" I'm Jonathan." It seemed like she was making an effort to introduce herself to everyone. "I felt like I didn't get to greet you earlier," she said. "Oh, I had to get back to my desk midway through. I've been swamped with work, sorry about that." Apparently, she had made the effort to stop by my desk. I hurriedly stood up from my seat. "Looking forward to working with you." "Likewise." A simple exchange of pleasantries should be enough. Sooner or later, she would probably forget I even existed. Thinking that, I casually went back to my work. But contrary to my expectations, her unpredictable interest in me didn't fade. Even a month after she joined, Emily would often strike up conversations with me. "Good morning, Jonathan." Morning. As I awkwardly returned her greeting, she let out a small chuckle. Then, suddenly, she seemed to notice something and reached out. "Your hair is sticking up. You have bedhead." She smoothed it down carefully, making it feel as though she was patting my head. "You might be short on time in the mornings, but appearance is everything in sales. Try checking the mirror for a second before heading out." Despite her small scolding, Emily's face softened with a gentle smile. The surrounding employees stared at me and Emily with wide eyes, while others in the distance whispered among themselves. Noticing their reactions, I honestly felt like burying my head in my hands. I had spent my entire career as someone barely noticeable, yet suddenly I was the center of attention, leaving me feeling both embarrassed and completely out of place. But whether she noticed my discomfort or not, Emily kept fussing with my hair, murmuring things like, maybe if I do this. Oh, wait, it's sticking up again. She seemed completely different to the stares from others or how I felt about it. This is kind of ticklish. Oh, that reminds me, I'm looking for a nice gift box of sweets to bring to a client. Do you have any recommendations, Jonathan? After saying that, Emily tilted her slender neck slightly and looked at me with a pleading expression. Wanting to end the interaction as quickly as possible, I instinctively nodded multiple times. It was only after she had walked away that my brain finally started working properly again. Even as I resumed my work, my mind was completely occupied with the fact that a woman had actually relied on me for something. I have a sweet tooth and usually keep some snacks at my desk while working. I often try out newly released treats or popular items trending on social media, which must have caught Emily's attention with their novelty. I started feeling restless, realizing this could turn into something troublesome. But apparently, I wasn't the only one unsettled. Even though Michael was seated at a distance, he began handling his documents roughly, the rustling sound loud and aggressive. Then, as if confirming his irritation, he shot me a glare filled with resentment. Don't get the wrong idea. It's not like she relies on you because you're useful. She just knows you're too incompetent for real work. Picking out a gift box is the only thing someone with no education like you can handle. It was obvious now that Michael had taken quite a liking to Emily, and the fact that she had come to me instead of him had clearly gotten under his skin. Just like that, all my efforts to stay under the radar had gone to waste, and I found myself drawing more attention from Michael than ever before. Yet, despite his irritation, Emily continued to greet me first thing every morning and naturally sat next to me whenever we ended up in the cafeteria. Her constant proximity was enough to make me wonder if she actually had feelings for me, but I forced myself to stay level-headed. There was no way someone as beautiful and competent as Emily would be interested in an ordinary, unremarkable employee like me. This was probably just her being friendly, or maybe she didn't see me as a man at all and just thought of me as some harmless mascot. As I kept reminding myself of that, the company's 30th anniversary party drew closer. Since this marked a major milestone, the event was planned to be extravagant, with every employee invited. A rumor even spread that Mr. Thomas, the company's president, would be attending, causing the entire office to buzz with excitement. As the day approached, among those most excited was Michael. Every day, he strutted around the office, grinning smugly with an air of self-importance. The company has high expectations for me with Mr. Thomas attending. This is the perfect chance to show how capable I am. Michael seemed to have no interest in celebrating the company's growth or fostering internal collaboration by sharing its vision. The only thing on his mind was how to climb the corporate ladder as quickly as possible. Not long after, I learned that Michael had volunteered to be the event organizer. The company's anniversary party was a major event, and taking on the role of organizer came with significant responsibility. But if executed well, it could leave a strong impression on upper management. Grinning smugly, Michael boosted to his group of followers. If I pull this off, my promotion is as good as guaranteed, and don't worry, I'll make sure you guys benefit from it too. With that, Michael assembled an event planning team and actively took charge of decisions regarding the venue and program. However, when it came to the tedious tasks like securing the location and arranging decorations, he delegated everything to his subordinates, just like in his daily work. The actual labor was done by his team, while he only handled the easy, high-profile aspects that made him look good. Then, as if he had orchestrated everything on his own, he shamelessly flaunted his achievements to upper management. At one point, Michael deliberately walked over to my desk, his smirk widening. Someone with your level of education would just be dead weight, so I won't bother giving you any tasks. But don't worry, you're still an employee of this company, so you better be there on the day of the event. Understood. Hearing my response, Michael walked away, looking pleased with himself, but the expression he wore as he left made it clear he was definitely plotting something. Then, the day of the anniversary party arrived. It was held in a grand venue with no expense spared. As much as I hated to admit it, Michael handled his role as organizer efficiently. For all his arrogance, he was undeniably capable. He had arranged for commemorative gifts, produced a video summarizing the company's history, and smoothly managed the proceedings. The event was divided into two parts. The first half, welcoming clients and business partners, featured presentations on the company's future vision and awards for long-serving employees. Once that concluded smoothly, only company personnel remained in the venue as the second half began. A pianist, a live band, and even notable figures associated with the company took the stage for performances. Unlike the formal dinner of the first half, the atmosphere was much more relaxed, with plenty of alcohol being served, turning the event into a lively celebration. After about an hour of enjoyment, Michael, in high spirits, raised his voice to address the crowd. "Tonight, we are surrounded by the company's finest employees, with unwavering dedication and exceptional contributions. Surely there isn't a single incompetent employee among us." Right after declaring that, Michael cast a quick glance in my direction. Then, in a tone dripping with sarcasm, he continued speaking. "Since Mr. Thomas is here with us, why don't we take this opportunity to showcase our employees' skills? Trade and business rely heavily on English, after all. Let's have a surprise English proficiency test." His exaggerated announcement, reminiscent of a strict school teacher, elicited laughter from the audience. The test Michael had devised involved randomly selecting employees to come forward and translate given English passages with speed and accuracy, determining the winner. At first, the test began with basic business English questions directed at the younger employees. No matter how new you are, you should at least be able to answer questions at this level. Michael, acting as the host, pressured them with his remarks. The fresh-faced employees struggled, racking their brains and breaking into nervous sweats as they worked through the questions. Meanwhile, senior employees heckled from the sidelines, saying things like, "If you can't even understand this, you're worse than a student." Even though it was meant to be a light-hearted activity, the public humiliation unfolding in front of the entire company gave me a bad feeling. Mr. Thomas, the company president, was someone who deeply valued both the business and its employees. It was said that in his younger days, he had been so dedicated to building the company that his wife had left him, taking their young child with her. Since then, he had treated the company and its workers as if they were his own family. But would he really approve of this spectacle? Yet, as I glanced at him, I saw that he was casually sipping wine with a faint smile, watching the event unfold. Clearly intoxicated, he cupped a hand around his mouth and cheered, "Great job. Keep it up, everyone," showing no intention of calling off the event. In the end, the nervousness and difficulty of the challenge left most of the new hires unable to translate much at all, and they trudged back to their seats dejected. Seeing them like that, I couldn't help but feel bad. But apparently, the expression on my face came across as defiant. Noticing this, Michael smirked at me. "Well, I expected our employees to handle these easily, but I suppose the questions were too difficult. But don't worry, new hires. This company has employees with even less ability than you," he loudly declared into the microphone before singling me out. "If we're talking about incompetent employees, then of course we have Jonathan here, who only got a high school diploma. Seeing his English skills should put your minds at ease." Michael turned his palm upward and curled his fingers in a taunting motion, wordlessly daring me to step forward. As the entire room's attention locked onto me, I felt the weight of their stares. Realizing there was no escape, I reluctantly walked over to stand beside him. "I'll show you how Jonathan, an incompetent person, and I, an excellent employee, translate at the same time. This will be a great opportunity to compare the results and see what happens to those who go through life without putting in the effort to learn." Michael's declaration sent another wave of murmurs through the crowd, as comments like, "There's no way a high school graduate can handle this," spread throughout the room. Mr. Thomas stood up, taking the microphone. He suddenly made an unexpected announcement. "If we use the prepared questions, Michael will have an unfair advantage. So, how about I provide the test myself?" Michael froze for a moment at the sudden announcement, but he quickly realized this was a great opportunity to showcase his abilities to Mr. Thomas. With a look of eager anticipation, as if he were about to lick his lips in excitement, he accepted the challenge. Meanwhile, I didn't care what kind of competition it was. I just wanted to return to my seat and escape the spotlight as soon as possible. Seeing no objections from anyone, Mr. Thomas pulled out 2 magazines. "Our company's largest business partners are in China. You all remember the company-wide memo from 2 years ago urging employees to study Chinese, correct?" At Mr. Thomas's words, the room filled with hushed whispers. It was true that a company-wide email had once urged all employees to study Chinese. On top of that, the company had even offered to cover part of the tuition fees for language courses. I had never been interested in learning Chinese myself, but I knew that some of my colleagues had enrolled in language schools or taken online courses. However, no matter how hard I tried to recall, I had never once seen Michael studying Chinese. "I have here a Chinese economic magazine. How about you both translate the same page?" At the unexpected proposal, Michael, standing beside me, turned pale as he listened to Mr. Thomas's words. Still smiling, Mr. Thomas pressed on. "Let's see if you can translate it well enough to satisfy me. If you can solve this, I'll give you $30 million. At the mention of $30 million, the entire venue erupted with gasps and cheers. There was no way he was being serious. Michael had brought up this ridiculous surprise test like a school teacher, and now Mr. Thomas was playing along, probably planning to dramatically flash a piece of paper with $30 million written on it as a joke. From the murmurs around me, I could hear employees whispering, "There's no way a high school grad could handle Chinese. Mr. Thomas is being a bit cruel, isn't he?" Amidst it all, I felt a deep sense of disappointment. I had always respected Mr. Thomas for valuing the company and its employees, but was he also looking down on me just because of my education? Thinking that, I felt the urge to forfeit right then and there, letting Michael take the win. I didn't care if the quiz lost its excitement or if the anniversary party turned awkward. I just wanted to walk away. But just as I was about to decline, I made eye contact with Emily, seated in the corner of the room. It seemed like she had been watching me from the very beginning. At first, I thought I was imagining it, so I glanced away several times. But every time I looked back, Emily was still staring at me with a serious expression. Then, I could have sworn I heard her clear and firm voice saying, "Jonathan, you got this." I couldn't even remember the last time someone had cheered for me. A moment ago, I was set on backing out, but now I felt an overwhelming desire not to disappoint the one person who believed in me. Shaking off my hesitation, I straightened my posture and resolved to do my best. In front of me was a laptop set up for both Michael and me to type translations. Taking a deep breath, I turned my focus to the screen and sharpened my concentration. Diving into the Chinese text, I scanned several lines ahead, carefully considering how to translate each phrase accurately without losing its meaning. Various translation options formed and vanished in my mind as my fingers swiftly typed away, the rhythmic sound of my keystrokes echoing in the otherwise silent hall. Meanwhile, Michael stood frozen beside me, staring in shock as he muttered, "What? How is Jonathan? This doesn't make sense." Before Michael could even finish his sentence, I had already completed the translation and submitted my work to Mr. Thomas. He silently reviewed it for a moment, then, with a beaming smile, placed a firm hand on my back. "This is outstanding. It's clear and precise, and you've accurately translated even the tricky parts that often cause errors in international contracts." With that, he applauded warmly. Encouraged by his reaction, a few employees hesitantly joined in clapping cautiously. But within seconds, the applause swelled into a thunderous ovation that filled the entire hall. Michael, however, abandoned his blank laptop screen and stormed toward me, his face twisted in disbelief. "Hey, what was that? How did you cheat? There's no way a high school graduate like you understands Chinese." As Michael, his face pale, grabbed me in a panic, I responded in my usual slow and calm manner. "I didn't do anything special. I just translated it normally." "That's impossible. A high school grad like you couldn't possibly have studied another foreign language on top of English." At this point, there was no way around it. With a sigh, I decided to tell the truth. Truth is, actually, I only completed my education in Japan up until high school. After that, I attended Harvard University, where I rigorously studied Chinese. Harvard has one of the most intense language programs in the world, bringing together students from all over to master various languages. In those courses, speaking English was strictly prohibited. On top of the standard university curriculum, the language programs assigned mountains of homework, creating an incredibly demanding schedule. But in just 6 months, students could achieve fluency. I had never mentioned my overseas education because I didn't want to be judged based on my academic background. I never expected to reveal it in front of the entire company at a party. Even after hearing my explanation, Michael's face only turned paler as he shook his head in denial. Instead of accepting the truth, he frantically searched me for hidden answers, patting down my suit, checking my pockets, and even flipping through my wallet. Of course, he found nothing. In frustration, he erupted again. "Mr. Thomas, let's do this again. But in English this time. There's no way he knows Chinese. This has to be some kind of mistake." Now, calm down and take a seat," Mr. Thomas replied, setting aside his wine glass. He picked up a glass of water and, to everyone's surprise, made an unexpected announcement. "I'd like to take this moment to address something important. I've been concerned about the rising employee turnover rate in recent years." A hush fell over the room as everyone turned their attention to him. Glancing across the crowd, Mr. Thomas continued, "I've noticed this trend is especially prominent among employees who join straight out of high school. That's why I've been closely observing all of you tonight." Most of the employees listened in silence, but a few visibly paled Michael and his group of followers. "After watching today's events, I now understand the reason behind our high turnover rate," he stated firmly. "With all due respect, sir, I don't understand your point. Employees with strong academic backgrounds are highly capable and dedicated to continued learning." Michael, struggling to comprehend why he was suddenly under scrutiny, hurriedly attempted to justify himself. But his desperate excuses only made things worse. That mindset, the belief that academic background alone determines a person's worth, is exactly what needs to change. It's not about what you did in the past, but what you can do now that truly matters. Mr. Thomas's voice was calm, yet there was a quiet authority in his words. Michael flinched, his body stiffening before bowing his head repeatedly in remorse. Even as someone who had joined the company at the same time as him, I had never seen Michael look so defeated. But Mr. Thomas paid him no further attention, simply turning his back on the trembling Michael as he moved on. "Well then, as promised, Jonathan, I will give you the $3 million. You mean you're going to hold up a piece of paper that says $30 million, right?" I had assumed Mr. Thomas was joking, but he shook his head seriously. "I'm not joking. I'm really giving you $30 million, though not in cash. Instead, I'm appointing you as the new executive director, a position that will shape the future of this company." "Executive director? What do you mean?" According to Mr. Thomas, the company was planning to deepen its ties with Chinese enterprises more than ever before. To lead this expansion, they wanted someone well-versed in the language and culture to step up and drive the company forward. If you take on the role, prove yourself, and grow the company's profits, you may even become the next CEO. And if that happens, you'll effectively take control of this company, with its $30 million in capital. The sheer scale of what he was saying left me speechless. I could only nod in stunned silence. Just then, Emily, who had been standing beside me, let out a gasp of surprise and admiration. "That's amazing. My father thinks you're capable enough to entrust the company to you, Jonathan. You really are as brilliant as I thought. Wait, Mr. Thomas is your father." My already overwhelmed brain felt like it was about to short-circuit from this new revelation. Seeing my shocked expression, Emily gave me a mischievous smile and finally revealed the truth. She was the daughter of Mr. Thomas and his ex-wife, the one who had left him years ago due to his workaholic nature. "When I was little, I hated how my father was always consumed by work," she smiled wistfully, looking a little embarrassed. "But as I grew older, I started wondering what kind of job could possibly captivate him that much. And before I knew it, I had ended up in the same industry myself." Emily had proven herself to be incredibly capable, showing the same business acumen as her father while working at a competitor. Because she had a different last name, no one realized she was Mr. Thomas's daughter when she was recruited into the company. As we marveled at a series of unexpected truths, the three of us, Emily, Mr. Thomas, and I, found ourselves caught up in lively conversation. Emily had also started learning Chinese recently, so I answered her questions to the best of my ability. Meanwhile, Michael had gone completely silent, as if the fire inside him had been extinguished. No matter how much his followers tried to speak to him, he barely responded, sulking in a corner for the rest of the evening. In the end, his group took over the remaining tasks and somehow managed to wrap up the party without further issue. However, after having publicly humiliated himself and exposing his toxic, education-obsessed mindset, Michael's reputation plummeted. He quickly became an outcast in the office, ignored by almost everyone. Later, an internal review revealed that he had been constantly taking credit for his subordinates' work. As a result, his past achievements were reevaluated, and he faced a significant salary reduction. Yet, even after everything, Michael remained defiant, ranting, "Why should someone as competent as I am be punished? This is Japan. Speaking Japanese should be enough. Clients would obviously prefer dealing with a prestigious university graduate like me over some no-name employee." Showing no remorse and completely failing to understand the situation, perhaps as a response to his stubbornness, he was reassigned to an overseas branch. It was probably Mr. Thomas's way of teaching him a lesson by making him experience international business firsthand. And as fate would have it, the branch he was sent to was in South America, a place where English was barely spoken. I almost felt sorry for him when I considered how difficult it must be for him to learn a whole new language, but I also had to laugh. As promised, I received an official promotion to executive director. I worked tirelessly to increase our commerce in the Chinese market, steadily generating good profits, determined to earn the title. The words, "Jonathan, you truly are as capable as I expected," came out of Mr. Thomas's mouth without hesitation. However, I was aware that Emily's assistance was crucial to my success. Since then, we had been closer ever since that anniversary celebration. We were now preparing for the future together and in a committed relationship. I frequently had to make difficult decisions in my role as executive director, but her wisdom and direction always got me through. I wanted to keep expanding the business going ahead with Emily, Mr. Thomas, and my coworkers. I stepped forward into my profession with that resolve in mind, prepared for whatever was ahead.